Welcome, welcome, business owning moms, to my coveted maternity leave planning roadmap. You guys are in part 3 of my podcast takeover series of our maternity leave roadmap. So, I have already gotten so many notes of encouragement and excitement around the series. If you want all the episodes, so if you wanna just get access to the members area, get all the emails, get all the templates and all the things, go to mastermaternityleave.com/roadmap to go ahead and download all of that stuff. And if you're excited to just go along for the ride in the series, I'm going to be giving you guys the rest of the episodes here on the podcast. Quick, easy, actionable things that you can implement immediately. So let's get into this day's topic, which is practice. I actually think this is a really undervalued, thing inside of a business and just in life in general. So when we're kids and we join sports teams and we're super involved inside of like Model UN or any of those, clubs and things in school, we practice. We practice all the time. And we then go into the games or into the big presentations with some vigor and with some experience under our belts. I don't know about you, but my very first real big time off from the business was for maternity leave. It was so interesting because I was like, well, I know I need the space to heal. And some of you guys may have taken extended absences for better or worse within the business. But I actually believe that we don't have, as business owners, a lot of practice resting, a lot of practice taking some time away from the business. And so I believe that as you're planning your maternity leave, instead of front loading all of your work and being like, I'm going to work 80 hours a day. And I know that there aren't 80 hours in a day, but I'm going to work a lot to make sure that this thing gets done. What ends up happening is that we train our business to actually need more of our time. So I was working with a mom a few years ago on this one-on-one, and she's like, "Hey, listen, it's my second kiddo, and I think what I just need to do is work a whole lot and then, go out of the business and like pause operations for a second." And so I invited her to just rethink that. I invited her to reimagine a model or an operating structure that would actually allow the business to continue moving without her being involved. And so I said, what if we just did one video shoot where you weren't involved, but you just kind of like got like guided from the outside? And honestly, it kind of broke her brain a little bit in the sense that she didn't think that she could guide somebody else to get the same outcomes that she was getting on shoots. And her business looks entirely different after welcoming her second kiddo, her son. And the reason I shared this with you is because what we did was we just wove her out of the business very, very, very incrementally and really, really slowly. So, for example, at first she was attending every single shoot and on site for every single thing. Then she was helping plan every shoot and on site, but less involved. Then she was planning every shoot and not on site, but maybe toward the end or in the beginning. And so it was just this really nice evolution of moving her out of the day to day operations and really empowering other teammates and the systems that we put in place to do their jobs, right? I think a lot of times when we have challenges delegating, it's because we constantly are jumping over the people that we put in place to get that result. So, practice. I believe, and I've done this for lots of years, is take one day a week completely off. From an example, like Friday, I never have worked Fridays unless very strategically, like if a big podcast asked me to come on a Friday, I'd be like, oh, that's cool. But I have that day completely off to most of the time, honestly, be with my family, think my thoughts, slow down, allow the creativity to kind of start to ruminate in my body. If I'm not feeling so hot, I'm like, okay, at least I know that I have Friday to have some downtime. And that's my kind of built in buffer. I invite you to consider that even if you're like, hey, Allie, taking a Friday off for me these days is just maybe not in the cards. I can't really swing that. Then take an afternoon. Just take Friday afternoon, say, "Hey, I'm gonna stop working at 1 o'clock," or whatever that looks like for you. So practice taking some time off. In the sabbatical method, I talk quite a bit about kind of the 3 stages of being out of the business. So first and foremost, moving into more of an assister role. So I use the basketball terminology, right? If you don't have to necessarily be the one scoring, but some of the best teams in, NBA history have really great assisters. They have people who are just like looking for the open man who can score. And if you try to kind of channel that mentality over practicing, taking some time off, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up showing your team that you trust them, which is really important for their confidence as you go out on maternity leave. The second is the coach. So, just from the sidelines, being able to set up the frameworks and set up the team to be able to play the game and win the game. Yeah. So, that might look like casting the initial strategy for a project or supporting folks and thinking through specific outcomes. And maybe toward the end, coming in and giving some feedback and celebrating this, incredible wins that your team has had or the scores that they've made. And then the third kind of big personality in terms of weaving yourself out of the business is that Warren Buffett type of personality or like the owner, right, of the team, where you have employed the coach. You are, really thinking through all of the different facets of, how the team works, how it monetizes and makes money, how all of the things come together. And you're in a position where you get to just kind of stay back out of the day-to-day operations and come in and make some of those larger picture decisions. So think about that if you're thinking, "Hey, Allie, I can't really take, a day off. I want to really start to weave myself out." Think about those 3 personalities and where you can start to lean in. Bonus, if you feel like you're doing well and maybe you've woven yourself out of some of the things administratively that you want to be woven out of, and you've been able to support new teammates coming in, it's really important that you get like a full week off from the business for your mental health too. I mean, listen, sometimes pregnancy can be just as hard in some cases as postpartum. And taking a week off from the business and seeing kind of what happens and what falls through the cracks, what questions come up could be a great way for you to demo how that works in maternity leave. So practice, practice, practice. I do believe that if we keep this muscle up, the team will naturally fill in with their skill sets, will naturally fill in some of those questions. Issues will be illuminated, and then you'll have the ability to triage and work on those before you go out on leave. I hope this was helpful for you, and I will see you on the next episode.